What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks, powered by Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective on YouTube. My name is Charlie Sardelli, and as always, I'm here with
Jameson Amorous.
And Oscar Ibarra.
Sorry, guys, we've been laughing this whole time. And
No, I had this thought of the topic today is lawsuits, specifically against realtors. And I was going to have you change the intro to say, real estate, you've been served on the rocks.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And guys, remember, we're a podcast that talks about bourbon, reviews bourbon weekly, and we cover the real estate market and everything real estate specifically for you, the consumer, to bring you the information and arm you to be ready to go into this weird market that we're existing in now. Mm-hmm. And we got lucky and got hooked up with Old Elk in the past couple weeks. So if you're tuning in right now, we got 4 bottles from Old Elk. Last week we reviewed their straight wheat whiskey, and then this week we're going to be reviewing their rye.
Yep.
Their straight rye. And again, huge shout out Old Elk. Just kind of a little background on Old Elk again. They are a distillery based out of Fort Collins, Colorado, and they have accolades. I mean, excuse me, but out the ass at the end of the day.
Up the wazoo.
Up the wazoo. However you want to say
Easy.
it.
Is that? But it's a straight rye.
Oh, up the. Anyway.
Opposed to their gay rye.
But so today we're going to try their straight rye, and then the next 2 weeks we have a couple more, 2 more bottles from them, and then we plan on doing kind of a blind taste test between all three.
Yeah, thank you, Old Elk.
Yeah, thank you guys.
I've never had it, and it's the other bottle was
I was going to say, the first bottle last week was
great.
money.
I'm interested to see this week, though. I mean, I know we did the neck pour and everything, but obviously that's a neck pour. It's always hot. I am interested to see how the rye goes, especially because, Jameson, you mentioned it last week during the review. Basically, I have a sweeter palate, you have a sweeter palate, and ryes tend to be a lot more bitey, a little bit more hot. On today's episode, the real estate topic that we're going to talk about is one that is buzzing, and I've gotten multiple messages about it. I know these guys have gotten multiple messages about it. It is the NAR lawsuit that realtors were found guilty for $1.7 billion in damages because they held commission rates high and conspired against the consumer. And you can hear in my tone how I feel about it. But at the end of the day, honestly, guys, it's going to be a little bit less structured. You get to see 3 real estate agents drink some bourbon and talk about
Y'all
the topic.
wanted to talk about it? We're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk
We're going to talk about it.
I don't
For
really
sure.
want to talk about it.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean,
No,
Oscar,
I'm just kidding.
Oscar, honestly, I'm glad that, and honestly, this is where we have a lot of experience and then medium experience and brand new, right? And so I like that you're here to talk on this topic because so much of the discussion around this is the status quo. This is how it's worked for so long, and it's been beneficial for both parties. So I'm very interested to hear your take on it and how you discuss it, because it's, like I said, this is, I don't want to say unprecedented, because I mean, people have been coming after commissions for real estate agents for years.
Yeah.
But
They've been coming after commissions in
It's
general
not
for
new.
years.
It's not anything new. There's been lawsuits in the past.
Yeah.
They've all been shut down.
and that's what I was going to say. This is one of the first, if not the first,
and that's
to
why it's
make
getting
it.
it's
It is
getting
the
a
first,
lot of media attention. One, there's more media platforms, but
Yeah.
it's one that they won, but it's getting appealed.
Well, and it's
so.
the first one that went to the jury trial,
Right.
So it's, you tried by a jury of your
stupid
peers.
decision.
Right,
But anyway.
and we'll get. I have.
And
something
we
to
are
go on.
biased, but at the same time,
No, I'm saying it was a stupid decision to let it go to a jury.
Right.
trial.
Yeah. But again, we're gonna get into it. For
and
you guys,
I
don't
like
worry
I like
about it.
that I like that you say that in this weird market, obviously use
Yeah.
a realtor because the market's kind of weird to go through, but at the same time, the market's always the market. It's always changing, so that's why it's important to get a realtor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get too into the NAR lawsuit conversation, like I said, on today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Old Elk Straight Rye, and I'm honestly just the color of the bourbon itself. It is darker. It's still, on average, all of their bourbons are aged for 6 years, and I know we gave last week a good amount of information on Old Elk, but I want to go ahead and kind of focus in a little bit more on their rye while Jameson's pouring this out for us. So this bill, the mash bill that we're looking at now, like I said, obviously straight rye, so it's going to be a rye whiskey bourbon. We're looking at 95% rye, 5% malted rye, which interesting, right? The cool part about this is we talked about it last week, and again, I'm sorry, Mr. Greg, if I mispronounce your name, but Greg Ertz is the master distiller, and he's been doing this for over 25 years. An interesting note that I like that they put in the description for this bottle is he made over 280 million bottles of rye whiskey before they decided to do this rye with Old Elk.
Wow. Okay.
So, between 25 years, imagine being responsible for 280 million bottles of alcohol.
That's a whole lot.
That's a lot of podcasts.
It's a lot of podcasts.
A lot of podcasts.
That's for sure. And we talked about it. I mentioned it earlier. Old Elk is just, they have, if they were in the military, their entire left side of their chest would be full of medals with what they've earned. But this one specifically in 2020, it was voted the best American rye whiskey by the International Whiskey Competition. And there was 2 other accolades on there. Both, I think it was a 96 point or 98 points in 2020 for the World Spirit Competition. So a finalist in that competition. Okay. And what's cool about rye is, and I think you guys can, you guys will kind of collude with me on this one, is rye is very specific. We always talk about how, we could try this one we can give this one to somebody who doesn't drink bourbon. Very rarely have I run into a rye that I would give to somebody who doesn't drink bourbon.
No, absolutely not.
Right?
Yeah, no, rye. It's an acquired taste more so than even bourbon. I mean, bourbon's
it's the
pretty
IPA
mellow.
Of bourbons.
Yeah, exactly.
Rye is up there with whiskey, with American whiskey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people think that bourbon is whiskey, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
American whiskey Irish whiskey, any whiskey, it's going to kick you in the teeth.
Yep.
Well, yes and no. There's some Irish whiskeys I've had. This is way off topic. Like Jameson.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're
Anything
right.
A little
like
bias, huh?
triple
Yeah,
Jameson?
no, you're right. Irish
You guys
whiskeys.
didn't know. Triple distilled. They tend to be a little bit smoother, but American whiskeys, yes.
Yeah, and they're sour shit.
They're very sour. They're very in your face.
Yeah.
Bourbons tend to be on the sweeter side.
And ryes
they
are
tend to be aged a little bit longer.
up there with whiskey more so than.
Well, and I like the fact that last week the mash bill on the wheated was 95% wheat, and then 5%. Now this is 95% rye.
Yep.
So we're going from one end of the spectrum all the way back over to the other.
I don't think I have a rye that I sip on.
Yeah.
I just don't. Ryes go into, quality for a quality cocktail for me at least.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna use a rye in a Manhattan.
Yes,
every night.
that's it.
Yep.
Rye and Manhattans, even old fashions, but more so Manhattans because the sweet vermouth tends to tone all the madness of what a rye is.
Absolutely.
Not madness in a bad way either.
No.
Because I'll
Whiskey
take
sours.
I'll take a Manhattan with a rye over a Manhattan with bourbon.
Well, what was the drink you were talking about with the egg whites?
The
flip?
whiskey sour.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Real whiskey sour.
That would be.
Exactly. And why you would use a rye with that specifically is because as Oscar was saying, is ryes tend to be more bitter, right? Because it's more of that rye grain, which doesn't have as much sweetness to it.
I would say bite.
Yeah.
But the egg whites actually enhance the sugars in whatever you have. So the syrups, the sweet and sour, and in the bourbon.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see how this one. Yeah, yeah. If you guys heard that cough, this one's a bit hot.
It is hot.
It is hot. I will say though, the color on it is spot on for what I would say a high rye would be. A high rye mash being darker. Last week, and
again, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't know a whole lot about ryes. I know about ryes, but as far as my personal experience of drinking, I don't drink ryes neat or on the rocks.
Yeah,
so this is going to be fun and interesting because I'd like to. The only other rye that I've had neat or on the rocks, well, it was neat, was the Smoke Wagon.
Yep.
And their rye is spot on good.
Oh yeah, they're rye.
I would sip that.
Very complex.
The legs on this thing though for a rye is kind of surprising.
Absolutely, it's heavy.
It is.
It's
heavy.
consistent with the other.
Yeah.
With the bourbon.
Yeah, which
Whatever you're
normally
doing, you're
equate to a
doing it
sweeter
right.
Bourbon, which I don't mean.
Yeah.
Based on the neck ports, that's definitely not it.
All right, guys, let's go ahead. Let's see. I'm interested on the nose. Give me your nose. What you think about it? If you can breathe, guys. This is very hot on the nose.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hot on the nose. So like it is a little bit.
The nostrils.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to taste through, I guess, to get it. But
I mean, I get cinnamon,
yep. Definitely getting
dried fruit,
can't.
dried apricots.
the spice is heavy.
Yeah.
It's very
spicy.
spicy.
The burn is heavy.
There is a sweetness though.
I know.
Yeah, I was saying dried, like
Some kind of dried
dried
fruit.
fruits,
Yeah.
like apricots
apricots or something.
I will say though, This one doesn't have as much of the barrel on the nose as the weeded did.
But now that you say cinnamon, it's
Yeah.
more like not cinnamon sticks, but cinnamon like red hots.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like cinnamon candy.
And I mean,
Like a not licorice. It's the wrong
no, like oh man, what's Mike and Ike's?
Mike and Ike's?
Mike and Ike's.
But the
Red
red
Hots.
ones?
Yeah,
Red
the
Hots.
red hot Mike and
Red
Ike's.
Hots.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Like red tamale. What they?
Hot
tamales?
tamales.
Hot tamales.
Hot tamales.
Welcome
There we
as
go.
we
Jesus
try
Christ.
to figure out
Jesus.
these flavors.
Gotta go back to the days where we got dropped off at AMC with a bunch of my friends to go watch movies all night.
Right?
Jesus. All night, lucky. My mom would drop me off at Illich Gardens with $5, and I was like, he was like, buy a hot dog and a soda, get out of here. I was like, oh, okay.
You can fit through the fence.
I need a quarter to call you though. No,
Payphones.
I would get the
Payphones,
entrance.
guys. He's
Definitely-
talking about payphones.
You know what I'm gonna do
Payphones.
though? No, I guess we have JC's pour
Yeah.
sitting open. So,
I'll tell you right now, I already took a sip. I'm sorry, I went out of line. The neck pour was harsh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was good, but
Okay.
it actually.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get that.
Remember,
sip
I
in.
was like, I can't.
Yeah.
It was too much.
I mean, this is the first time all three of us are quiet after the sip.
I mean,
It has
I'm
what
trying
comes
to breathe through it because that
Yeah.
burn persists.
Yeah.
it-
Oh yeah.
you initially, and it's weird. It's
doesn't-
it's not alcohol, right? Because alcohol,
No.
you'll have the burn on your tongue. It comes in semi-neutral. I mean, we all have pretty
Yeah.
callous palates for burning alcohol. So when it goes down, it's kind of like a macey kind of burn, like mace. You
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
I was say I get some on the back end like sour, like a sour mash.
Yeah,
almost.
absolutely.
You know
And I'm also getting. I don't know if you ever had like those herb tinctures. My wife's very much into natural stuff.
Yeah.
And it has kind of like that strong.
That dryness.
Yeah, but that dark herb
Yeah.
kind of punt.
Yeah.
that's not bad.
It's almost sour where it pulls the moisture out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not in a bad way.
Which, with most ryes, that's what you're gonna get. Is that on your tongue? It feels like your tongue's absorbing it, and it's. I don't want to say harsh, but it's almost.
It's like a sour patch
It
kid.
has a texture.
It's like a sour patch kid.
Yeah.
It's a very herbal, like a very herbal aroma finish. It comes in somewhat neutral to me, at least. It comes
Yeah,
in somewhat
if you
neutral.
keep it on your tongue for a little bit.
It's all-
it's not like it,
the
it-
burn's
I
not
get
bad.
I get the sweetness back.
Yeah. all the
I
flavors
got the
in
sweetness
the
back.
in the back.
Yeah,
it comes
the-
in. It
one-
comes afterwards.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Oscar. That exactly that. The flavor from this, and for me, and let me know what you guys think. But when I first take the sip, it's all spice.
Yes.
The first hit of the tongue is all spices, and then you get it kind of tailors off into what Oscar's talking about, that earthiness, that dryness sitting on the tongue. But then even just now, like the after breath, and it's sitting. That sweetness is what sits.
Take
Yeah,
a
I still
sip.
get that dried fruit in the back too.
Take a
If I
sip.
just-
Keep it on your tongue and breathe through your nose, and keep it there for a while. It's weird. It's not really a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
And then once you drink it, then it comes in, and you start breathing, and
Which-
then you start getting more out of it.
to you guys' point, I think, I mean, off the jump, this in some sort of Manhattan, I think would complement it really well because it comes off neutral, it doesn't overpower the cocktail. But then when you start to sip it, then you get a little bit more of the delicacies of it.
Yeah.
The
But
back end.
for a 95% rye, it is not as dry as I thought
No.
it would be.
And I mean, even
It is dry though.
yeah,
is
it
dry.
is. Oh
It's
yeah,
not-
yeah,
it's
it
not
is.
that
Dry.
dry.
It's definitely a rye.
compared to the wheat,
Yeah,
it
it
night and
definitely
day.
does the rye thing.
Night and day. Yeah.
The back end, the flavor that lingers would pair well with a good sweet vermouth.
Agreed.
Absolutely. So now that we kind of got the nose and the taste through, so the nose on this is going to be spice, peach, cinnamon, sugar.
Ooh, okay.
So Jameson hit that one right on the nose, and I like this description that they gave because honestly I didn't really get this, but again it was pretty hot. Is peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream on the nose, is what they said.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I got that dried apricot, which is
Yeah.
like dried
Yeah,
fruit.
that's what I got.
And I think that's that combination
Yeah.
of the spice with dried apricot, not real ones, just
Yeah.
dried ones, because you kind of get that
Yeah.
that more
Leathery.
muted leathery taste to it.
Absolutely. And then the taste is bold spice of rye,
Yep.
allspice, peach on the middle, caramel on the finish.
I could
Okay.
definitely
Yeah, I can see that.
peach and
Yeah.
The
caramel's
caramel,
kind of,
I'm having a hard
yeah,
time.
me too.
The only where I can give them credit to the caramel is definitely on the sit, the tongue.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and especially as they say caramel on the finish. For
I
me,
just feel like the rye, it doesn't dry up my taste buds, but it clamps them.
It singes them.
The finish for me
Yeah.
is all herb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not in a bad way.
See,
All
But
herb.
that's the beauty of
yeah.
tasting bourbons.
I do definitely see that what they're talking about is, for me, a lot of the time I get the flavor on the outside of my tongue whenever I let it sit. When I don't take the sip, that's where the sweetness sits for me. With this, I very much feel the weight on the center of my tongue.
Yes.
The
Same.
weight of the sip is that's where everything's pulling to, and then it's the back of my palate where I'm getting the sweetness.
Well,
That's it.
what's on the center of the tongue?
Peach.
Yeah.
No, what's on the center of the tongue as far as flavor, right? We have savory, sweet
Oh,
all
yeah.
around the
Oh,
tongue.
yeah.
I mean, I
think
wonder
it's-
what that
it's
is
gotta
because
be-
it's really muted on the edges for me
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
It's all on
I thought
the drink.
I thought the middle was like sour.
Maybe.
Yeah, which
Like
would make
tart.
sense.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
would
Tart.
make sense.
I think it's tart.
especially
Yeah.
because I mean, even peaches in general have that
Yeah.
tartness to it. So, I mean,
No, that makes sense.
That awesome. I at the end of the day, it's definitely, you can tell the knowledge of the production going into it.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, and this is not my rock rating, obviously, because we don't do that yet, but it's more. This reminds me of the Smoke Wagon Ryes, only because a lot of ryes, they get overpowered because they are so dry.
Yep.
That you don't get those nuances of flavor because it hits your tongue, your taste buds shrivel up, and you're like, whew, that's hot.
Yep.
This still maintains some complexity, which is why I think we like that Smoke Wagon Rye too so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Because-
initial thoughts, I like it.
Because this was a rye,
Yeah.
and I'm not used to drinking ryes, I just couldn't put my finger on it, right? Because my brain was like, well, this isn't bourbon. This isn't bourbon. Now hearing the flavor profiles, and I took another sip, it's opened up a bit. I could see that cobbler
And that's definitely
with
where
vanilla
I'm-
ice cream.
I want
I
to
can.
leave mine. I'm going to leave mine for a little bit. I know we have this one open, but I want to leave it for a little bit because I think
Pop the cork on it.
this one.
See what happens.
Yeah. Leave it open.
Yeah.
Okay. And I do think that this is going to be one of them where if you let it open, you're going to get a totally different outcome from it.
Yeah, I
And-
get the vanilla now.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
I get
Yeah,
it.
definitely cools down.
I get it.
And
Yep.
Because I couldn't put my finger around it, and then once I heard,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I could see that, and then I could taste it.
Yeah.
And Old Elk, well done on the stopper. It's
Yes.
super cool. I
Here,
really,
hold on. I'll see if I can.
I really like it a
See
lot.
if I can hold it up. So if you guys see it, the stopper's kind of like a
a
little
wood stump.
little
Well,
wood
it's
stump.
it's a antler.
Yep, and then it has
an antler.
it has a design on the front of it
Yeah,
there.
it's cool.
It's a good one. I'll see if I can throw a picture up. But they have one, and it's the
stag?
the stag. Yeah. The golden stag on top of the bottle. Like I said last week. I wish they would have sent me that one, but can't be greedy. Grateful for the bottle in
Yep,
general.
yep.
Right. All right. Well, you guys ready to do this? You guys ready to get into it?
I'm gonna be as
Can we do
try
it?
and be as neutral as possible.
Can
I
we?
really am.
So
I'm gonna try and be as
here's,
neutral as
here's the
possible.
thing where I'm gonna be. I texted these guys before we started the podcast, and I told them, I was like, "Hey guys, this one's gonna be pretty emotional."
Yeah.
For me, it's not emotional because I'm a realtor. It's emotional because I'm a citizen. I think is more where I'm leaning, and I'll get into that more. But what the topic that we're talking about today, guys, is the lawsuit going on, or the decision of the lawsuit that was going on against NAR, where
Well, and NAR and a few other companies.
and a few other
Yeah, I'll
companies.
say, do you want to just give a quick background?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And it's
so
Burnett versus.
yeah, Burnett versus it was Keller Williams, Remax, NAR.
Well, it's
Anywhere-
their
Anywhere
parent
Realty.
And Anywhere
contract.
Realtor,
It's
yeah.
their parent company.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that Remax and Keller's owned by their own, but Remax there's a few companies that are owned by a parent company,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just changed. I forget the new.
Yeah.
umbre-
Well, it's kind of think about
umbrella.
it as franchises. Right?
Yeah, so-
McDonald's is a company, but then you can buy a franchise and you own it and run it as.
Well, no, it's more like Yum Yum,
okay.
and Yum Yum owns KFC. They own Arby's.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
Or General Mills.
yes.
Yes.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So
it-
basically, the lawsuit was,
They went against the biggest real estate
yes.
conglomerates.
Yeah, and there's some things that I think we need to clarify, right? So just as a quick overview of what the lawsuit is, just so you guys understand. The lawsuit was a litigation by sellers who bought homes between 2015 and 2021 in the states specifically of like Missouri, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and I think one other one. Right,
Which
that was
of
it.
all the states,
But that was it. And what they were alleging was that NAR,
That just makes me more angry knowing
Right.
that those are the states.
So essentially, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, which controls hundreds of local multiple listing services, conspired with these big companies, Keller Williams, Anywhere Realty, all these different companies, to keep commissions higher through something specifically called the Brokers Co-op Agreement, which means that if you list a property in the MLS, you have to offer a co-op commission to a buyer's agent. That is what the wording was. That is what the lawsuit essentially
to
said.
that
And said,
point-
hey, because that happened, we as sellers were forced, quote unquote, to pay buyer's agents these commissions over these years, which amounted into billions and billions of dollars of commissions that these sellers in this lawsuit and a separate lawsuit that happens next year didn't feel like they should be paying.
And that's where, oh man, I mean, how
So that's what it was, right?
ignorance is not a good defense case. We talked about that.
No, but that's just what they alleged.
And again, it's like, come on, just common sense, folks. Yes, the seller dictates. We talked about it a lot. You say, look, Mr. Seller, I'm going to charge you a fee, and the seller says, okay, here's 6%, 5.5%,
Well,
whatever.
yeah.
Do what you want with it.
Well, and
Offer
that's-
what you want with it.
And that's something
right?
that Oscar, I'm glad you kind of tailored it in there. What the whole reason, and this is what, because if you look at what NAR has said, if you look at what the National Association of Realtors have come out and said, is we're going to defend this. We obviously believe that we do everything to make it a fair market, equal across the board for everybody involved. But
an equitable environment, and therefore the consumer.
yeah. So, and we've talked about this before. Please go check out the episode that we did on this lawsuit previously, when kind of it started hitting the news and people started getting up in arms about it. But basically, how it works in a normal real estate transaction. And
Well,
this
hold
is-
on. First,
Yeah.
why don't you tell them what happened? I just explained what the lawsuit was. So what's
Yeah.
the outcome?
Okay, so the outcome is basically, like we said earlier, this went to a trial by jury, so a trial of peers like you, everybody listening to this podcast, sitting in your car, sitting at home, whatever it is. And it was decided in 3 hours. They decided, the jury took this in 3 hours, okay? Went back and decided that, yes, NAR and all these companies are guilty of colluding to keep commissions high. And the damages to be awarded right now are sitting at $1.78 billion. And that is to come from NAR and
Keller Williams.
Keller Williams and Remax and another company settled before.
settled.
Coldwell Banker.
Coldwell Bank. They settled
they settled.
beforehand. And I think they paid $100 million.
Yeah, Realtology and Remax, I think, were the two big ones.
Yeah.
Realtology owns
Yeah,
Compass
Realtology.
and whatever.
So that's the outcome. Basically, they were found guilty of this.
Correct.
By a jury of their peers. Again, in the United States, you are innocent until proven guilty. But on that note, Jameson, this is one thing that I want to say is I doubt that these lawyers will look at this. You know, they're on MSNBC and all these things. But I want to tell them, like, kudos to you guys. You legit planned this at the perfect time. You know what I mean? Like, there's just civil unrest with the housing market. People can't buy. And now you're telling me you have a jury of
Pissed
Americans,
off consumers.
sitting and
played their
deciding
hand
on
right.
this case. Yeah.
And you know what? Keep it neutral. Hell no. F this.
Well,
it's a money grab.
Well,
you
and
know
that's
it's a
insane.
damn money
I have
grab.
to give them their credit that they brought this to light at a good time for their case. Like, at the end of the day,
was gonna work.
Yeah, absolutely, because people are up in arms. People are angry. And obviously, we're realtors, right? And we've mentioned it many times before. I've talked about it before I became a realtor. I was like, oh, yeah, I want to help people. Half the things I get on my social media are, you're a realtor, you're a piece of shit. And it's like, come on. Like, I get it. I get where you're coming from. Like, you don't want to spend the money.
Come and spend the day with me.
Yeah, it was a confluence of perfect events, right? Like you said, we went through the pandemic, and then everybody's all excited. And here's an interesting statistic. So previous to COVID, about 82% of buyers chose to use an agent.
Yep.
During COVID and afterwards, that number jumped from 82% to 88%.
Yep.
So the majority of people still understand and see the value of using a realtor, right? We all can come and give you guys hundreds of examples of where we have saved deals, where we have saved marriages, where
Absolutely.
we have been all these different things, right? And I think what has happened over these last 2 years is we went through the period where you were waiving inspections and you were paying appraisal gaps and 15 offers and on the market for 2 days, and people got this mindset of, well, if you want to list a house, all you got to do is put a sign for sale. Why am I paying you for that, right?
Yep.
Not paying attention to market conditions.
It was a hot market.
Then we moved from that to the Fed raising the rates, and we've talked about
Why
this
is anybody
ad
mad at the
nauseum.
Feds? Why
and
us?
now everybody's
Got
mad
nothing to do with the
and
interest
upset
rates.
because, well, now all of a sudden, you know, we went from, well, you could buy a house and get cheap rates to now I can't even afford to live. So if I have to sell or buy, why am I paying somebody an exorbitant amount to do so if affordability is where it's at currently?
Yeah.
And then you have this lawsuit come in, and to you guys' point, you got 9 members of the general public that have all probably been in one way, shape, or form homeowners. You can't weed them out. You know what I mean? And
Not
they're
like a
already
standard process.
they're already frustrated and pissed off. And you've got the lawyers that come out and they paint a really good picture. They tell the story of how that, you know, either poor agents or poor wording,
They
all these different
called
things.
NAR a cartel.
Right.
That's the wording that they used.
Yes.
It was a cartel.
Yeah. So
And
I
NAR,
get
the
it.
National Association of Realtors.
Yes. So I get it. I don't know, Oscar. What are your thoughts, man? Like, what
You
do
know,
you think?
and here's what blows my mind. Why the hell are you pissed off at the buyer's agent? You know, the buyer's agent, if anything, is spending more money out of pocket if
Right.
you don't get under contract fast. How much time and effort, gas are you spending? I mean,
Loss of business.
loss of business. I've had clients that I've helped for over a year, you know, and I didn't put it on them. And at the end of the day, if you dollar for dollar hours I've worked,
That's
$2 an hour.
Yep.
You know, that's the thing about commissions. If it goes fast, yes, it's a lucrative business. But then, you know, you got to understand there's a lot of the deals don't.
Well,
you're looking at 30 days,
Yeah.
and sometimes 6 months, a year, and you're still working the same deal. And at the end of the day, the seller's not paying for everything. The buyer brings the money to the table every time. So within marketing it correctly and adding the fees in there, and if it appraises, yes, the seller agrees how much they're going to pay in commission, but the buyer brings the money.
Well,
Without
that's
the
not
buyer
even-
bringing in the
it
money,
doesn't
they're both paying
And,
at the end of the day.
And that doesn't even touch on the fact that, like Jameson said, the mindset from the pandemic from 2020 to 2022 was, I'm gonna put a for sale sign up, my house is gonna sell, right? That is a luxury. That is something that you should be grateful for. You should be grateful for, but you should be lucky that that's how the market got, that you were able to list your property and it didn't sit on market for 30 plus days and you were able to flip and sell, right? But the thing that gets me is at the end of the day, okay, Jameson, you went through this. Oscar, I know you've been through this. I'm seeing it now as I'm helping my $1 million clients go through and look at different houses. So many sellers, as of right now, especially in the state of Colorado, sat on their homes. They made equity because the market itself got hot, right? They did not change cabinets. They did not update their kitchen. They did nothing, absolutely nothing to their house. And they gained $200,000 in value. Right. And they're sitting there going, yeah, well, I want to make all the money possible off of this, off of the smallest amount of work. And obviously, guys, everybody has that right. You can sell your house for whatever price you want. But where it bothers me is the effect that this is going to have on buyers in an already strenuous buyer's market. Like,
yeah, and here's another thing. Spend the day with us, right? One. But two, we didn't shift or change anything as a community in real estate. You, the public, are the ones that bought and sold. We navigated to your best
ability.
to our best ability, but to your best interest, to make sure you weren't screwed over. I had multiple conversations where I don't think you should put an extra $100,000, but you want this house. I never forced anybody to buy or sell a house. I help people navigate the ins and outs, the legal part of it.
Yep.
So in all of this, from the beginning of NAR 100 years ago or whatever they've been, we've always been an industry where here in Colorado, 2.8 is a buyer's agent's commission. The listing side, it varies. A lot of agents list for 3.2. That's never changed.
Yeah.
If anything, we've reduced our commission.
Yeah.
Whatever happened during the pandemic and the rise of real estate had little to nothing to do with us. The consumer wanted, it was a demand. What were we going to do? Pump the brakes, dig in our heels? We're not going to do this. We had no control. So us as realtors, we had nothing to do with that just because we're in the industry, but the consumer pushed for the demand and the demand wasn't met. That shot everything up. Now, I'm not beating you up. I love you guys as consumers, but you got to understand we weren't in the background. We're going to profit off of this. No, the market did what it did. Our guidelines, our procedures kept the same, and we're looked upon as the evildoers. And now the feds are the ones that are raising the rates. Be mad at the feds. It's not even on the real estate side. It's on the lending side.
Nah, and here's Oscar. I like where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, and the reason I said this is emotional for me is because as somebody who, again, I didn't like credit. I thought buying a house was stupid. All of this stuff. But taking the time to learn about it and sit through and actually go through it, I'm sorry, but this is a beautiful example of the entitlement of Americans. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, commissions have always been set by the client. There has never, ever been a point where you're going to sit down and go, nope, this is what it is. If you don't like it, that you're held to this. You have to do this.
You could kick that agent right out of your house.
You can do it. But again,
spend the day with me. I love you guys. I want to educate you guys.
It blows my mind and it angers me so much because I feel like we are now living in an excuse culture. And you've heard me talk about it before.
100%. I could see that.
Of
we need to point the finger to someone.
Personal responsibility, right? At the end of the day, these people that were like, oh, well, you took money from me. I want to sit in front of these people and be like, how many times did you ask to negotiate your commission? How many times did you ask if you were able to negotiate your commission? Did you bring it up? Or were you just ignorant and you took it as it is? You went on Redfin, you went on Remax on their website, Zillow, whatever it is, and you took the first agent that they threw at your face. That is your responsibility.
Well,
and if you didn't ask that question, again, this is going to come off as harsh, but it's your responsibility.
And what I said earlier was harsh too. And again, if you want to point the finger at the realtors, go ahead. Point the finger at us, but at the same time, spend the day with me. Spend the day with me. We're humans. We're hardworking Americans. We're not out to try to screw anybody. We're here to fill a need. And at the end of the day, you know what? I've lost my butt off on some of these transactions, and I didn't go and blame anybody, but it is what it is. And I'm not mad at anybody. But again, if you want to point the finger, but understand that the process never changed. This was just a money grab that these guys are looking for, and they timed exactly. I never even looked at it. That they timed it at a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jameson and I both were pre-law before we hopped out, and that's legitimately like law is it's precedent, using words to fight your position and using previous, right? And that is why this is so dangerous, because yes, NAR immediately came out and said we're going to do an appeal, but this ruling sets a legal precedent on commissions for real estate.
Yes and no. I'm going to take a complete opposite viewpoint on here.
Damn lawyers. My major was in architectural design, so I'm going to let them do what they do.
When you're dealing with the general public, right, and this is not a knock, and we've talked about this before, when I say general public, I mean people that are not involved in the industry on a day-to-day basis, right? You have to spell it out. You just do. Whether that's if I'm going to take my car to a mechanic, if I'm going to a dentist appointment, if I'm going to a doctor's office, if I'm going for a consultation with a lawyer. If I'm not in that industry as a professional, you have to spell it out. And I think the mistake that happened, and I do blame NAR for this, and I blame other large brokerages. There was a time when I first started, okay, I took my first listing, and I had a question about, what I could list and commission and all that kind of stuff, because we usually have a fee breakdown of if you do A, B, C, and D, commission can go from here all the way down to here, whatever, right? I'm not going to say names because I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I was told that I needed special permission from my brokerage to lessen my commission on a listing under 2.5%. Okay? True story. I'll be 100% transparent with you guys. That is what happened, and I think that is
100%.
What
I could back them on that. A lot of the brokerages
those type of things and those type of regulations, because that was when I say you have to spell it out, what I mean is with the National Association of Realtors controlling multiple listing services, MLS is essentially what you guys see that gets brought to Zillow or whatever it is. There was never specific language saying that as a seller, you could offer whatever you wanted to a buyer's agent, including $0 or $1. Okay. It's always been the case, like you said. It's never been explicitly stated to the general public. Okay.
I can see
so
where
now,
that
but
comes across
the
as
reason
shady.
the reason I say that is because when this lawsuit, before it went to jury, what did National Association of Realtors do?
Which screwed them.
They went,
they switched.
hey, by the way, you can offer whatever you want to a buyer's agent. It does not have to be 2.5%. We have never dictated or mandated what that commission schedule looks like to a cooperating agent. However, that is in direct contradiction to some of the things I was told when I worked for a larger brokerage that said if you want to list a house under 4% total commission, you need it to be ratified by a brokerage, by your brokerage leader. Like, to me, that's bullshit.
It is
right?
bullshit.
I didn't know any different because I was new. So I just thought, okay, yeah, this is what it is. The general public, same thing. You guys this is how it's been done.
And I'm going to agree with that. The
So-
general public doesn't know.
I'm not saying that it's right, wrong, or indifferent, right? I understand where the emotion's coming from, but I also am not naive to the point where I can see how this came about. Yes, they timed it perfectly, okay, with a lot of just angst and whatnot that's happening. But I also, if I really look at it, I don't disagree.
Yeah, but
I disagree. I don't disagree in the sense that I think this will just lead to more transparency. I think it will make a free market even more of a free market and give some power back to the clients. I think it will change the way people do business in the sense that you have to prove what your value is to your client, which I also don't think is a terrible thing.
no, I think
No,
that,
I mean,
I think that's perfect.
What's
You know
your,
what I'm
what's your
saying?
value
Yeah.
proposition?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I think that's perfect.
in my head, I've had this complaint forever. I truly believe that the bar to entry to being a realtor is a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Right. We've said it needs to be
Or annual fees and stuff.
whatever. It's fucking stupid, right?
$350 for a course in Colorado.
It's fucking dumb. It's stupid. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to start to see the agents that can't articulate what their value is to their clients. They're going to drop out because now the consumer is going to have more leeway in negotiating, right? We'll get to the point of what the end result of what these people want to have happen. I'm just talking specifically about I understand the wording and how NAR has used the MLSs and is I think it's almost like a they were misdirecting by omission.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
they-
yeah, no,
you know what I'm saying?
No, and that's where I can agree with you in the fact that if it, was it perfectly public knowledge that you can negotiate a commission? I will say absolutely not. But again, it's one of those things where you have it, hey.
Think
hey,
about
like-
this difference, okay?
Well,
Let's say you're my client.
Yeah.
Okay? Or let's say I'm your client, and you tell me, I'll list your house, and my commission is 5.6%. Okay? And I go, well, I mean, I'd like to list it for less than that, so can we do 4.5%? And your response is one of two things, right? In one world, it's, you know what, let's take a look at it and see if we can come to an agreement with what makes sense based on how much we're going to spend marketing the house, how long we think it's be, what you're going to earn on your net sheet. Versus saying, I can't do that. I got to check with my brokerage to see if that's even something I can do. How
but,
does that come across?
And I'm glad you brought that up because
you
that's
make a good
always irked
point.
me. That's always
You know what I
irked
mean?
me. That
How does that come across to a client?
because
Yes.
I've always been able to negotiate my commission,
Right.
always, and I've owned my own brokerage with a couple
Right.
of business partners and a good friend of mine, and that was never an issue. I would take listings at 1%.
Right.
Well, see, and that's what, and this is, I think, it's a great point, absolutely. And I think where my frustration comes in is I always come from a position of value to the consumer, right?
Correct.
Like
Yes.
in my business, I'm always, all three of us, we always want to look to help and make it the best opportunity for the client. So for me, the position where I come from is genuinely like, no, I know the effort that I put into, and I know what I do in my job.
Correct.
And I feel like through all of that, I should get a commission? Yes. But at the same time, I'm always open to negotiating that commission. So that is a great point, Jameson. Like,
Right. And that's
so
what my point is. If anything that comes from this lawsuit, I get it. It was a money grab. Like I will stand on that hill. I will die on that hill. They did it on purpose. I've got a great example about how much these lawyers are going to make later that will drop. But I also believe that there is sometimes a necessary inflection point within industries in general that will allow it to open up. Because I heard a great argument, and I'm gonna paraphrase because I don't want to butcher it. But essentially, I think what will happen, right, is the market will dictate that buyers agents will still get paid by sellers.
Well, yeah, and we've already seen it.
And why is that? Why is that?
Why is that, Oscar?
Because
why will the market
if I
dictate?
have a client and you have a listing and you're not going to pay me, I can't not go show the house, right? But why would I go do it for free?
Right.
At that point, I'll just say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I can't represent you here. You go look at the house yourself.
But perfect example, Oscar.
I mean, why would I? I mean, this is what I do for a living, right? But at the same time, that's not selfish to me because I'm going to go do it for free and then the next one for free and then the next one for free and then at the end of the day, the buyer's agent does a whole lot of work.
Yeah, but you bring up a great point, and this is why I said this ruling is really going to hurt buyers, especially in this market, because as we see 8% interest rates, and as an example, again, Colorado average home price, I'll go low, $585.
Well, hold on. Let's clarify this, right?
Okay.
Because this ruling right now, as of today, what is today, November 9th?
Yep.
Right? As of November 9th, the only thing that this ruling has done has said National Association of Realtors is guilty of essentially conspiring with large brokerages to keep commissions high. Okay, that's what they did. So the damages for those individuals from 2015 to 2021 in these specific states is $1.87 billion, $1.78 billion. We are going to try and make NAR pay that out as damages. The lawsuit has not said that sellers are not allowed to pay buyer's agents.
Yes.
It has not said that. The
Yes.
judge has not come out and said that. There's no injunction stopping and preventing or mandating that sellers cannot pay buyer's agents. So just to make that clear, like that's not what's happening. Will that happen in the future? We don't know. The judge is supposed to release.
I mean, in the
other
lending
things,
side, they
but-
get paid by commission too with some brokerages, and it's a RESPA violation to charge more than a certain percentage as well.
So the reason I want to bring that up, Charlie, is because you started saying it's going to hurt buyers. Now, knowing that is not what is happening yet, if it does go down that road, and there is something that comes out as an injunction that says, hey, sellers as from their proceeds, there is a mandate saying that like a buyer's commission cannot show up on a closing settlement, a HUD statement. Okay. If that happens, how does that hurt buyers?
Well, again, like I said, let's take Colorado as an example, right? We all know interest rates are high. Buying a home right now is difficult, okay? And if you are of the mindset of, hey, I want to come up with a 10% down payment, a 20% down payment, average price in Colorado right now, $585, right? Let's go there. So if you want to come up with even 10%, you have to come out of pocket $58,000.
Well, yeah, let's say
right?
10%, $58,000.
10%, that is $58,000. Okay, wonderful. So your buyer has to come to the table with $58,000 for a down payment. Let's go even lower. Let's go 3%.
Let's go 5%.
Yeah, go 5%. You're still looking at $16,000 or $19,000.
No, you're looking,
Yeah, $19,000, right? So at that point, no,
$28,000.
$28,000,
Yeah.
and you're still looking at $28,000. Who right now has $28,000 just sitting around to come up? It's hard for people. Now imagine your buyer's agent, just like Oscar said, hey, can you do a showing for me? Yeah, I can, but in order for me to represent you, you're going to have to come up with another 10% of this purchase, or excuse me, 5%. Let's go 5%, right? Because sellers will still be making.
Well, if it's 2.5 and 2.5, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, you're going to say, hey, you need 5% for the down payment
But-
plus closing costs.
but it's-
if you want me to represent you as your fiduciary,
2.5%.
then it's another 2.5%.
But it's 2.5% because that commission is split between the seller and the buyer.
No, I'm saying 2.5%. Like if the seller pays their own agent,
Yes.
and the buyer has to pay their agent, the buyer's got to come up with an
it's
extra
2.5% each.
But, yes.
And at the same time, what are they trying to do? Do away with buyer's agents? Okay, let's look at the best interest of the consumer.
Yeah.
What does a buyer agent do? If he represents the buyer.
Yeah,
So you're
so-
going to have the listing agent do a transaction brokerage. Are they really going to have the buyer's best interest or the client they already had a fiduciary responsibility to?
And that's a great point.
How
because
are you
that is
going to balance that?
The ultimate goal of this lawsuit is to have buyers pay their own agents and sellers pay their agents. And they believe, the plaintiffs, that is the most transparent way to go about through the transaction.
But
right?
what I was mentioning earlier is The reason that it is 2.5, 2.5, right, is because when the seller sits down, or 2.8, 3.2, whatever it is, when the seller sits down to talk about commission, they say, this is a 6% commission on the price of the home.
Okay.
Now, that 6% is then split between seller and buyer.
Sure.
2.8% to buyer, 3.2%, or 2.5, 2.5, it's 5%, whatever it is, right? So there's nothing talking about sellers dropping their commission prices.
No, but that will happen. That's going to be.
But let's look at the bigger picture.
That's
here.
going to be what's going to happen.
But again, that's what should happen. But at the same time, there's nothing legally telling them, hey, you have to go from this 5% that you're doing down to 2.5 because that's what you would have made if there was a buyer.
But it's
seller's
again,
agents,
it's skewed.
Yeah, but
because
seller's agents can still say, I'm going to list your house for 5%. And versus that paying for the validation and the work of the buyer's agent to legally represent and get the buyer the best representation, all of that money is now going to go to the seller. The buyer is unrepresented, and they still have to come up with thousands of dollars to get a buyer's agent. And
does the seller pay the commission out of pocket?
No.
Nope.
No.
Out of the
proceeds,
out of the proceeds of their asset, right? The buyer's now coming, and you want them to pay this large amount of money out of their pocket?
Yep. Exactly.
Because right now, if you want to take technicalities, again, my point is that the seller dictates, but the buyer brings the money.
Yep.
So in essence, they would have to figure a way for the buyer to be able to finance our commission. Leave it alone. That's basically what they're doing right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the seller is using their asset to pay for everything and gain their equity and do what they want with it.
Yep.
The buyer is bringing in a loan backed by their down payment to purchase this. So that all gets bundled up, and then title company says, okay, well, the commissions was this or that, the proceeds, everybody gets paid. So how is it fair for the consumer that is coming in to purchase an asset and pay a buyer's agent out of pocket when the seller is using their asset and with gained by their listing agent to get the most money? And it's been proven through NAR stats that a seller selling with a realtor gets more money even after commissions than a for sale by owner.
Yep. And that's my whole thing is like, and again, I'm all for, I know if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this is how it's been. But if you can present me, and here's my biggest issue with it is and the reason that we say it's a money grab is because they haven't presented a solution. It's all, I want to make the most money from selling my house, and I don't want to pay that buyer's commission.
Well, class action lawsuit, no class action lawsuit is ever filed to then find a solution.
Yeah.
It is filed for the plaintiffs to get
Compensation.
damages paid
Yes.
and compensated. That's what it is.
But that's the whole thing is it's way too money forward. You're cool. Drop the bomb, disrupt the system, change it up, whatever it is. But there is almost no thought given to the after effect, because if you're a seller, the reason that you have buyers is because there's a buyer's agent that is navigating it, working with you to do the showings, to go in and get this. But now if there's no buyer's agent because they're not getting paid, then who's going to
represent the buyer?
Who's going to represent the buyer? Who's going to bring you a buyer? Then secondly, are you going to let random people walk into your house for a showing unattended? The reason open houses are there is because there's somebody present to let people walk through your homes.
And we carry insurances and a bunch of other stuff that protects the people.
Well, and think about it this way, right? So to your point, let's say a buyer does come in unrepresented and goes, I don't want to pay for my own buyer's agent. Okay. Well, a listing agent
It's going to take them to the cleaners.
Not only that, but let's say they don't take them to cleaners. Let's say they say, okay, we'll do dual agency, which in Colorado, as far as I'm aware, is frowned upon. It's not illegal, but it's pretty fucking close. Like, there's a reason dual agency or a transaction broker doesn't
The
work.
way it's supposed to work out, as it's called a transaction broker,
Right.
is say that we're seller's agent, buyer's agent. Look at us as coaches. We're going to coach you through. We're going to get you there. Winning is the main goal, or just get to the closing table. When you're a transaction broker, then that agent has to his or her best ability, be a referee.
Correct.
At that point.
Exactly.
Totally different roles. And it's hard.
Yes.
I've done transaction brokerage a lot.
Because you know how that conversation goes?
You're privy to information on both sides.
Oscar, you're my transaction broker. I'm the seller. Okay. Hey, the inspection report came back. Here's their inspection objection. What should we do?
What do you want to do?
I don't know. What should we do? You're my agent.
I have to stay neutral.
Okay. So should I tell them that I won't do this?
Sure.
Well, should I tell them I should do this?
Sure.
Well, how much would this normally cost me if I were to do this?
I'll give that information.
Or say, hey, go find a contractor.
It's hard,
right?
It's hard.
Hey, my appraisal came under $20,000. What do I do?
It's hard to play that.
What do you
line.
want to do?
Yeah, I could play it well. I've had, but there's been situations where I'm like, because I'm the one that's going to get sued.
Right.
Because I'm privy to your information and the buyer's information. Right. So I have to find the neutral ground and still make sure I'm representing them well. It's hard, and not a lot of agents know how to do it.
Let's take it a step further, right? So we talked about it during the pandemic and afterwards. 88% of people use agents, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to make this very clear to everybody that's watching this or listening. There is nowhere in any law, mandate, form, commission statement, protocol that says you have to use a realtor to buy or sell real estate.
You could do it yourself
in the United States.
And if you hire an attorney, it's going to be $500 an hour. So
but you don't even have to do that. You can just do it yourself.
You go down to Office Depot,
print out the forms,
or go to Dora,
right?
Print out the forms, and go at it.
So, but here's the thing. So let's take the scenario that a seller selling their house, they contacted a listing agent. Listing agent says, "Hey, here's the deal. You don't want to pay a buyer's agent, so we're going to renegotiate my commission. I'm going to charge you 3% as your agent." Buyer comes in, unrepresented. Okay. One of two things happen. That buyer, like you said, gets run through the ringer, and they end up paying more in price. They end up paying more, or suffering for not doing inspections, whatever it is.
They get small screwed. Nuances in real estate,
right? The average American's going to get fucked
Yeah.
by some of this. So now let's say that you go to your seller and say, "Hey, here's the deal. This guy wants to be represented, but he doesn't want to pay for his own buyer's agent. Do you mind if I represent both sides?" Sure. Okay. So now, do you think that agent's not going to renegotiate their commission?
Okay.
Because now they're handling two parties on the same transaction, in which case you could have just paid the buyer's agent, right? That's why I'm saying the market will dictate that for a majority of transactions, a buyer's agent will still get paid by the listing agent.
And now let's look at this side. I am going to build in the commissions for both sides, and let's say that you're going to go where they think this is going to trend.
Yep.
And you're like, "Nope, I'm not going to pay the buyer's agent. I'm going to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Seller and say, hey, if we list here, the top market, I could probably sell your house for more money if we pay a buyer's agent. Let's just pay him 2.5%. Mm-hmm. We agree? Yes. We can negotiate my side, but let's pay him 2.5. I will have 1,000 more clients come through their door than your end if you're not
buying.
Or
what if you do it this way? Hey, let's build it in 5.6%. We're going to reserve 2.5% to a buyer's agent, right? But let's say if a buyer comes in unrepresented, then I'll just refund you the 2.5%.
That's the conversation I have at every listing.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
If a buyer comes in through the door, you say, hey, the neighbor said they want to buy, I'll represent them. I won't take the 2.5, but at this point, I'll do 3%.
Yep.
And then I'll do both sides.
Yep.
You win either way.
But again, perfect example, it's because you can negotiate your commission.
Correct.
And it has never been set. Realtors, okay, maybe. I'll give it to you that NAR and these companies, they left it in a gray area. And if you didn't go out of your way to look into that gray area and figure out, then okay, yeah, it might be skewed. But what Oscar just said as an example, you've always had control over your commission.
Yep.
Right. Well, and let's talk about the elephant in the room. The guys that have kind of disrupted our market. Mm-hmm. Next door.
Yep.
All these discount brokers, they've been around forever, guys.
Okay.
Forever, never.
I dealt with one of these big guys. Jameson was ever so great, gracious to say, hey, I have the ability for you to represent somebody on the buyer side. I'd love to help you. Okay, cool. One of these companies, I'm not going to name them. Long story short, they said, hey, normally our fee is 6% if you want us to sell your house. But if you do not use one of our agents, we're going to charge you 8% because we need to recoup operational costs. And when I went through and I called these people, I went all the way up to the regional managers, scrolling through people, just calling through. And it basically got to, well, we got lawyers that deal with that stuff, and if it was wrong, then something would come out. Like that 100%, like that is an example of them using it against the client.
Oh, and I'm
100%.
the advocate for the people. What happened this year with the lawsuit that my client that got screwed over by a real estate company here that was part of a bigger corporation that had him in a 40-year listing agreement that even if they used someone else, they still owed them 3%. That's the kind of crap that got us to this lawsuit.
Yes, absolutely.
And I took charge. I took it all the way to the Attorney General's office.
But I think that's
and filed complaints.
But
that's
again,
my point.
That's you. That is you as a good agent.
No. But what I'm saying is that
doing
that is my point where I'm taking a little bit of the opposite
of why
mindset
this
approach,
lawsuit is up.
saying that
I
those
get
are the
it.
type of things that this lawsuit will unearth.
Yes.
That will eventually make it to where it is. Like, I'm not saying the marketplace as it's set up right now, the MLS and the buyer's co-op and whatnot, I do believe that is the most efficient way to buy and sell a house, right? 100%. I hope that the lawsuit unearths that kind of bullshit.
Yes.
That now goes, okay, that's not, or yours with Portrait. That
I'm dealing with them right now too. I was biting my lip. And I was like,
you know what I'm saying? So
It
like, I
rhymes
want
with-
that kind of shit because I do believe that anytime you were in status quo for too long, you get complacent. And as an industry, I believe, with NAR as the overarching, umbrella corporation, essentially, got complacent and said, well, it's almost like a bank's like we're too big to fail.
Yeah.
And now you got regulations that have made it way easier for people to invest and so on and so forth. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it was a money grab. I don't think personally anything's going to change. I think your whole point of you don't have to use a realtor. I have a client right now, okay, who has bought and sold over 50 some odd properties throughout his life. Some of them for sale by owner. He literally told me, Jameson, here's the deal. I could do this myself. However, I would rather, because my time is valuable, entrust you and pay you to handle it because my time is worth more than what I would save if I were to try and sell this thing as I'm going back and forth and working and do all these different things. That is who we're here for. If you're the
We're
person,
set up.
Well,
if you're the person that doesn't need us, don't use us. Like that's it. That's
Well,
all
and
it is.
here's-
but don't call me and ask me. I cannot give you advice.
Correct.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not being a jerk.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well,
Go ahead.
and Jameson knows where I'm going. And
Yep.
we touched on it in a second. But here is the thing that if you step back and look at this on a grand scale and you put it under a magnifying glass. Hey, JMO, how much are the defendant's going to make versus how much the lawyers are going to make because of their...
All right, so here's some math for you folks out there. So the settlement was $1.78 billion, okay? But in this type of class action lawsuit, that amount gets trebled. So for all of my people that are wondering what that means, it gets tripled. That's trebled is a legal term, but it gets tripled. So let's round it up to $2 billion. That means that the award is $6 billion total. The lawyers claim anywhere from 30 to 40% of that award as their commission, which they negotiated with the plaintiffs, right? And really kind of not with the plaintiffs because I think there's the total number of plaintiffs is 250,000, I want to say, right? So 250,000 plaintiffs. I know the lawyers didn't negotiate with all 250,000. So what they did is they're now going to take, let's say on the low end, 30% of $6 billion. You have your phone, don't you? Yeah. Pull this out real quick because I want to do this in real time. Your watch is going to be tough because it's too many zeros.
Yes,
because you have to turn it sideways. So $6 billion
Right, hold on.
I'm gonna
times
try it.
30%.
6
what?
billion times
Damn it! It
30.
stops at 60. You're right.
I know.
6 billion. So 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Times 0.30.
Times 0.30.
How much?
1.8 billion.
Which means the lawyers are going to make $1.8 billion. Now, let's say...
Whoa.
Hold on. Good. What?
When did this lawsuit start?
2 years ago?
Okay, and you would say, were they working 24/7
No.
the last 2 years?
No.
All right, let's scrutinize that.
So now let's
continue.
say-
I'm putting it in perspective.
in the courtroom specifically, there's 4 or 5 lawyers that are working in the courtroom. Okay, so now let's just say that they're going to equally split what they made out of this lawsuit amongst 100 lawyers and paralegals and assistants that have helped on this case.
So 1.8 billion
Divided by 100.
Okay. 18 million.
So each lawyer that has worked on this case is going to make $18 million. Okay, that's assuming 100 lawyers worked on this case. Double it to 200, they're making $9 million. Triple it to 300, they're making $6 million a piece. $6 million a piece for 300 people who worked on this. Now,
There's probably not 300 people working on this.
There's
either.
not, but I'm just gonna.
Yeah,
whatever, right?
we're being modest.
So
with
now
these
let's
numbers.
say so we said $6 billion minus the 1.8. So what's left over for the plaintiffs?
So 6 billion. 6 billion. Yeah. 6
Minus
billion
1.8 billion.
Minus 1.8.
Should be like 4.2.
divided by 200.
Yeah, 4.2 billion. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So now 4.2 billion divided by 250,000 plaintiffs, because those are the people that are actually going to get the checks.
16,800.
So the plaintiffs on the high end are going to make $16,000. The lawyers that you guys hired that you can negotiate the commission with, that put all this work in, are going to make at minimum $6 million if there was 300 of them working on your case.
And that's a little bit skewed because the paralegals aren't going to make that, right?
That's what I'm saying.
The
I'm saying
attorneys
equally.
are.
I'm saying
So they're making
equally.
like
Yeah.
I'm saying
15
you're
million
paying,
each.
I'm saying you're paying the paralegals the same as you would pay the head counsel, right?
Yep.
So you're saying you guys are okay with you making 16,000 and the lawyers making 6 million minimum a piece if there's 300 of them.
Why? Because they fought the case.
But you're and they fought the
What
case.
are we doing?
Wait. They fought the case because as a plaintiff, you couldn't fight the case because you didn't have the expertise or the time or the energy or the resources to build a case to bring to court. Yet,
Hold on. Bring it on home.
Yet you're going to complain that as your realtor that you chose to represent your house, to sell your house, because you don't have the time or the energy or the knowledge or the resources to do so, that they're going to make 2.5% on that because you're paying somebody to help you sell the house. That's the problem. I'm sorry.
If we didn't have the mics on the stand, if we didn't have the mics on the stand,
if we're a scam, lawyers are a scam, doctors who get paid out by insurance companies are a scam, car salesmen are a scam.
I mean, let's just dig into. If we're gonna
Dentists are a
dig in. Let's
scam.
dig
Like,
in.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
If you go to the doctor,
Yep.
and I'm not beating them up, and I may be a little bit wrong on this. If you go in for a certain visit, you have insurance. Let's say you got Medicaid, they're gonna bill them $1,500 for that visit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you come in as a consumer, no insurance, same doctor, same visit, I'm cash, $150.
Right. Well, there's the great
Where the fuck
is-
the great example is if I go into an emergency room, right? Like I did with my wrist when I broke it, and I had to go under. They sedated me, did surgery, so on and so forth. And the bill that gets sent to my insurance company is called $27,800. Okay.
Jesus.
If I turn around and I demand an itemized receipt for everything that I paid for on that visit, do you know
goes
what
down.
happens to the bill? It goes
down.
down by 30 or 40%.
Yep.
But there's not a lawsuit for that because, well, that's insurance handles it. It's not the reason that this has been such a big deal, and I have said this time and time again, is that it is such a personal transaction.
Yes.
Because it is a house that you owned, that you lived in, that you raised your family. It's an emotional transaction, which is totally fine. All that means is if you're that angry about paying for selling that house, make sure you hire somebody that earns that money.
But again,
And
yes.
negotiate
And
the commission if
the
you want to.
attorneys knew it was a money grab because, I mean, there's money in real estate.
It
There
was
just is.
not only that.
NAR makes a lot of money off of just our memberships.
Not
they
only
make
that,
a ton of money.
right?
So they'll pay us out.
But not only that, tell me it was not a money grab that within 5 hours.
No. It was literally 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
They had the forms ready.
Ready? So within 10 minutes of that verdict, they immediately filed another lawsuit against other companies.
And you know what one of the other companies was, which I just find this very ironic, was a company that was one of the first to distance themselves from NAR.
Yep.
Does it rhyme with
Redfin.
Memfin?
Yep.
Oh, I was just going to try to. All right,
Nope,
let's just
fuck
call them
it.
out.
Well, no,
Redfin
no,
is-
because
Redfin is
one. But exactly.
Who do you think is next?
Yep. Redfin.
Zillow?
Yeah. And then
Trulia.
next door.
Yeah.
Next
And that's my
door.
whole point,
Orchard.
though, is like at the same time, Redfin.
Orchard.
Yeah,
Open
door.
The whole
Orchard.
thing, Redfin's
They've actually changed their stuff too.
platform. Their whole platform is you're not
Well,
going to pay as much on your commissions.
And
they're
again,
still going.
you brought up a good point. A class action lawsuit doesn't provide solutions. It's just this fucked up. This can't be allowed again. That's it. That's the class action lawsuit, and we're going to pay out everybody that was affected by it, or that can file for this class action lawsuit.
Which I'm fine with.
For example, polybutylene piping. in
Yes.
in the 70s and 80s. They built houses with some polybutylene piping that was just pressurized, and with time, you turn it off and on the water, the joints get loose and leaks. Class action lawsuit. There was tons of houses. Remediation needed to be done. People got paid out. No solution, but there was a solution already there.
Lead-based paint.
Copper. There was
all that
other
stuff,
solutions.
yes.
There was copper. There was galvanized. So in this case, this class action lawsuit, there is no other solution that exists.
Right.
There's no other copper piping.
Yeah.
But there is a way for us to maybe cap what we charge, which RESPA already does on the lending
Correct.
side.
Yes.
It's just a RESPA violation to charge over a certain amount of percentage.
Yep.
Which, okay, let's do it. It's not going to affect my business because I've always had variable commissions.
Turn around and say, hey, here's the deal. Cap it at 6%.
Done.
Okay.
They cap
cool.
it at 5. Who cares?
Whatever.
I was selling houses back in the early
Doesn't
2000s
Doesn't matter.
that I would, you could charge. We were charging 6% for 3% on each side, 3.2 and 2.8. The houses were $180,000.
Right.
We were making pennies on the dime. Now, average price is 580, 585, whatever. Dude.
So you know what's funny about that? Can I say something real quick? I know we're long,
No, go for
but
it.
this is a good topic. You bring up a great point because that is one of the arguments, right? So one of the arguments is commissions have stayed the same, although home values
I was going to go with that.
have gone up significantly, right? So that means, to your point, if I made 5% on a sale in 2003 and I make 5% on a sale in 2023, my house value went from 180,000 to 600,000. In which case, that means that if I was an agent for all those years, I've now made an infinitely amount more on the same commission on a different house price 10 years down the road. Did I do anything as an agent to do that? No, the home values went up. However, if I am a seller and I sold my house in 03, right, and I bought another house in 04, and then I held on to that house until 2023, and now instead of selling that house in 04 and making $190,000, I'm selling it in 2023 making $900,000, which means I've now made $800,000 more dollars than I would have 20 years ago. I didn't do anything, right, at all. But let's do the math, right? $200,000, $800,000. It's a $600,000 difference. At 5%, $200,000, or sorry, 3%. Commission would be what?
15,000 or 200,000?
200,000, 3% commission.
$9,000.
$9,000. Now 3% commission on 800,000.
That is 24,000.
Okay, so I've made what? What is that? 24,000 minus 9, $13,000 more. So I've made $13,000 more dollars as an agent in 20 years. As a home seller, I've made $600,000 more dollars.
So the homeowner that
Just
sold
by-
in 2003,
just by doing-
who are they going to sue?
And you know what I did? I just lived in the house.
Well, and
That's
what I'm
it.
saying.
I needed to.
I lived in the house.
It's
Right.
a beautiful
So-
correlation
Yes.
between the fact that
You know what I'm saying? Like,
there's a
come on.
beautiful correlation between the fact that Americans are sitting on the most home equity
Right.
in history, and
what is it? $32 trillion.
$32 trillion, and now at this point, people are going, "Hey, wait a second, where's my money?" Like, there's a beautiful correlation between those two things.
From
right?
start to finish, what's the average you help out a buyer?
However, what?
You got a new buyer.
Yep.
What's the average time to span?
Oh, I'd say at least 2 months minimum.
60 days?
Yeah, I'd say
90
60
days
days
sometimes?
minimum. Yep.
I mean, if you get lucky, 30 days.
Yep.
Average commission, let's call it 10 grand. Divided by 3.
Yep.
What do you make it?
$3,500 a month.
Yeah.
That's below what I,
I mean,
used to make.
come on,
with
guys.
my-
Yes, if we get lucky and we sell it in 1 month, that's 10 grand. Awesome.
Yeah. Not only
Rarely
that,
does that happen.
$3,500 a month, and that doesn't like my last clients that I had, they were looking at houses from Elizabeth to Colorado Springs over the course of a month. I drove almost 10,000 miles
Where do we live?
in a month.
Where do we live?
Castle Rock.
Okay. I am the Northern Colorado expert.
Yeah.
I pay a lot of money to E470
My
because
next,
I'm always up in
For you-
Brighton, Lockbuoy, Henderson, Arvada, Northland, Westminster. I'm in your neck of the
for my
woods
Colorado
all the time.
natives, my next listing is in Deer Trail. I will give somebody a $20 Starbucks gift card if you can tell me where Deer Trail is without looking it up on a fucking map.
Hey, hold on. You make fun of where I sold, 3 houses now?
Yeah.
Hugo, Colorado.
I know.
I'll give you another $10
Yeah.
in Starbucks if you tell me where that
But
is,
to your
or tell
point-
me where their title company
But
is.
to your point, like that, and I think this is a great point. A lot of people don't realize from a buyer's agent standpoint, like if I'm a listing agent, right, and listing agents do put in a lot of work, they spend a lot of their own money on marketing, they negotiate, they follow up, the good ones do, right? They reverse prospect, all that kind of stuff. However, what they can do as a listing agent is I can do probably 4 or 5 times the amount of business strictly as a listing agent as I do as a buyer's agent.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm spending an hour driving there, an hour with the client, an hour driving back, that's 3 hours of my day that I can't build other business with. If I'm showing houses for 4 to 6 hours a day, all I'm doing is I'm with those clients, right? I'm not answering phone calls from other clients because that is my fiduciary duty is for them as the buyers. If I spend 6 hours a day, 3 days a week, that's 18 hours that I'm not spending building the rest of my business. So the compensation has never been the same.
You can't be at 2 places at once.
Exactly.
And a listing agent can have 10, 20, 30 listings at one time.
Correct.
We could only have so many buyers, and we can't be at 2 places at one time.
Exactly.
If you're doing four hours a day with one client,
Yep.
you have 2 clients. You could do 2 clients a day. That's an 8-hour day. Or maybe 3 clients if you don't eat.
Yep.
And you're maybe showing maybe 3 properties.
Well, and I love it. And the reason I say that is because guys, like, we introduce
Spend
this,
the day with
and,
me, is
Well,
all I'm saying.
And not only that, but we always talk about this show as we're 3 realtors that enjoy bourbon and just talk about real estate while we do it, right? Welcome. This is the conversation that would have been had, cameras on, cameras off, right? And that's something
cameras
that-
are on?
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, this is the conversation that would have been had. So, like, thank you guys for sitting with us and seeing how we handled it and how we think about it. Because at the end of the day, and as somebody who, again, before I got into real estate, I thought this was going to be, like not selling wise, not money earning wise, but I got into this because I want to help people. I loved selling in Best Buys and seeing the look on people's faces when their kids saw the TV that they bought or this awesome camera that they're just going to start this new business with. I got in for that reason.
Yep.
And when I did get in, seeing how many people have a disdain for real estate agents strictly because we make commission off of buying and selling homes blew my mind, right? But to anybody who's listening, to anybody who's watching, thank you for watching through it and being here with us, because like these are the struggles, these are the pain points, the thoughts that go through our head, and it's good for us to get this out and for you to see this, right? Because at the end of the day, and here I'm going to move into the.
Well,
you guys okay if we go to the
hold on?
takeaway?
One more
Yeah,
quick
go for it. Go for
point is and then there's a downside to the commission side, right? I worked for 3 months, 2 different clients, 3 months, and it didn't happen.
Yep.
It just canceled. I'm not going to close on them. Nothing. I worked for 3 months for free.
Yep.
I didn't
Well,
come back.
not for free. Were they listings?
One was listing.
Did you spend money on photography?
I lost money. Not only was it for free, I
Right.
lost
I was gonna say, you actually
$1,800.
lost money on that.
Not to mention gas and all that other stuff.
Yep.
Yes.
The broker open that I did, you were there.
Yep.
So imagine going and working your 9 to 5
And giving away
for 3
$2,500
months, and they're saying, "Hold on, we'll pay you in 3 months. Don't take money
Yep.
right now. In 3 months, we're gonna get you paid." You worked your 9 to 5 for those 3 months, and after the end of the 3 months, they were like, sorry, we're not gonna pay you. Oh, but I work a labor job. I do.
No. Hey, sorry, we're not gonna pay you. Also, you owe me $2,500.
Right, and you owe me 20. And no. And during that time you were working, you spent money on gas and a bunch of
Yes.
other stuff for the company,
And we're not gonna reimburse you.
and we're not going to reimburse you.
And you owe us $2,500.
You don't see that side.
Yep.
But because we don't complain about that,
No,
we take
but-
it
but-
the way it is.
And that's exactly. I think that's a good segue into the One Rock takeaway for today's episode.
I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
So excited.
Right.
You gonna start it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it. And I'm going to start this with ignorance of the law is no excuse. And that is the base level. If you go to a court and you basically say, hey, I didn't know it was illegal for me to steal this car, they're going to look at you and go, well, you should have found out because now you're going to jail, right?
Can we play the Dave Chappelle stand up where he was with his friend? He goes, "It's great having a white friend.
Yeah, 'cause the car,
Dave?
the driving in the car.
I'm gonna race him."
Yep.
And we get pulled over, and I swear to God, this man gets pulled over. The officer tries to arrest him, and this was his response: "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know I couldn't do that."
I didn't
Right?
know I couldn't
You
do that.
didn't know you couldn't do that?
Yep. Well, and the reason I say that is because where I will agree to what Jameson said earlier in the episode, where it became a compliance, it became a
Complacent.
complacent.
Yes.
But what I mean by compliance too is just NAR went, hey, people aren't looking into this, so we're gonna. This is what it is, right? And that's basically what happened. But at the end of the day, really, self accountability. And since being in the industry, realizing how many people know literally nothing about how a real estate transaction works. Okay. It kills me that it's been, hey, we didn't know that we could.
I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know
I didn't know I could do that.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know I could negotiate my commission.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Also,
again,
and if you're an agent and you don't,
yes, if you don't disclose that,
you don't show that, and you don't explain that to your client, fuck you. You're the reason we're in this position,
Yep.
and it's bullshit.
And the company you work for.
yes, get out. You and the horse you rode in.
Yes.
Right. Like it's, and so where I do feel it like, hey, yeah, stuff was happening, but at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. And I'm sorry, but I've heard it way too many times from way too many people. Man, I had a horrible time during my real estate transaction. I asked him, where'd you find your agent? Oh, well, I just went with the agent that Zillow or Redfin recommended me.
I had a client say, this agent was yelling at me.
That
Can they
is-
do that? I was like, no.
No.
You should
At
have
the
fired
end-
her right there and then.
But at the end of the day,
It was a her.
But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to vet your agents, ask the right questions, know how it works. And I'm sorry, but if you're ignorant to the fact that you can't negotiate your commission, you shouldn't have started doing a real estate transaction in the first place. I'm done.
All right, I'm gonna take it from there because I'm gonna go a little bit easier. As a general public, you don't know, and you probably shouldn't have to know. But if you are diving in, you probably do a little bit of homework. But if you don't want to, you got to look for an agent like me. I'm gonna hold your hand from day one until forever. Even after we close, call me. Stuff happens, call me. That's just the person that I am in my personal life. Second of all, if you had a bad experience, that should flicker on something to say, hey, maybe I should have vetted something, or I should do a little bit more research on it. So my rock takeaway from all of this in the lawsuit is, the people that are being affected is not NAR or the big corporations. It's us, the agents. And we are just like you. We work for our money. We're hardworking Americans, and we have families. We're someone's brother, sister, cousin, uncle's father. We're just like you, trying to make a living. Some are very successful at it, and some have 3 jobs because they can't make it happen. So don't badger the agents. NAR, they have our backs, and the best interest is the general public. Spend a day with me. We're not evil people trying to take your money, because I've taken so many losses in this business, as of I've made good money too, but because I'm good at what I do.
All right.
I know I switched position totally on how I usually do one rock takeaways and my normal head stance. I'm sorry. It just bothers me so much that I can't just take responsibility, people. Like, the fact that you didn't know is not an excuse. Look into it. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm going to try that. I didn't know I couldn't do it, officer.
You gotta be white.
I'm not fucking white. I'm going to end up in jail.
Exactly.
You come bail me, guys.
You guys should watch that Chappelle skit. It's fucking
It is
fantastic.
great.
Anyway, here's my rock takeaway, right? Because I think a lot of the general public will go, okay, well, here I have a solution. Just make all real estate agents salary or hourly employees. Okay. Here's why you guys want us to continue to be commission based, because when you are buying an asset in a free market, there is negotiation that will always happen. And the other piece of this is, because of the way this industry is structured, it's not like you can, to use your Best Buy example, right? It's not like I can walk into a Best Buy and I know their hours are 10 to 8. Okay, and I can go walk in and I know that they have a sale price on this TV during Black Friday, so I'm going to buy it for this price. I'm going to take that TV, I'm going to go to the cashier, I'm going to pay, get my receipt, I'm going to walk out. Okay, if I have an issue, I either have insurance on it or I don't. If I don't, go fuck yourself. Real estate is such a fluid transaction from start to finish. Imagine a world where you're dealing with an entire industry of hourly or salary agents that work 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And after 5 p.m., they don't answer their phones. Or if you ask them for certain recommendations, they don't feel the need to give you the same level of service, because no matter what happens in that transaction,
They can get paid.
they're going to get paid. To Oscar's point, what happens if Oscar goes and tries to fight for those 3 transactions, but he's going to get salary no matter what. Whether he wins the transaction or loses, he's going to make his $80,000 a year. Do you think that person is going to fight for you every step of the way to make sure it happens? On top of that, because we are commission, right, and we aren't salary, our business is based on referrals and referrals alone. You can buy leads, sure, but the point is you treat that customer right, they're going to refer you to somebody else. That's how we build our business. If we're not commission, if we're salary, what incentive do I have to build a customer base and to provide a level of service that is going to give me more business in the future if I know I'm going to make the same no matter what, right? If I'm commission, I know that my livelihood is based on how well I take care of my clients, not only during the transaction itself, but after the transaction. And then if they refer their kids to me or their sister or their brother or their aunt, I have to make sure that I am taking care of them because that is my lifeblood. That is how I make a living.
There is a company that pays their agent's salary.
Exactly.
Look at their reviews.
That's all. That's what I'm saying. So when you look at it, yes, your commissions are negotiable, but understand you don't want it to go away where we're salary based, because if you send me an inspection report, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I don't really give a fuck. You know why? Because if I make you more money or less money on this house, I'm going to get paid the same. I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
Everybody's been complaining about fast food workers and everything. Like, oh, when I go in, my experience isn't. The same people who are complaining about them getting paid and the service that they're not getting are the exact same people who are saying, I want my money.
So just
To
understand.
prove your point, Orchard, you said you dealt with them.
Orchard. For legal purposes, Porchard.
Oh, Porchard, yeah. The views and demands of this. I have that same example. They have people working. Their contract states that you're going to have multiple people working on your file. They're probably salaried. My client tried to get a hold of their agent, and they got a response saying, sorry for the latent email, but that person no longer works with us, and here's your new representative. And the other one said, oh, I was on vacation. So we have time-sensitive shit right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You have 3 days to put earnest money in. You go in.
I'm under contract with them here in Colorado.
Yeah. But understand that is why. So from a buyer's agent standpoint, and this is why I think the market's going to dictate that buyer's agents get paid regardless, because the general public can't go through, not your fault, a real estate transaction and effectively purchase a house to the best of their ability. Having a fiduciary matters. Having a fiduciary on commission matters even more.
Guys, just spend the $350 and go through the course for 3 months.
Yes. So that was my second piece of this is 88% of people choose
$1,700.
88% of people choose to use an agent. Okay? If you don't love that you're giving away some of your hard-earned money on the house that you built by hand.
The auto people, he's quotations.
Right? By hand, quote unquote, then just choose to be part of the 12% that choose not to use an agent for representation and go about your business.
Let's do it.
It's not going to hurt my feelings whatsoever.
I support you.
100%.
You're going to learn a shit ton.
And you know what? If you can do it successfully, you have learned a valuable life skill.
And that's what I'm saying.
So by all means,
just learn. As long as you're learning, I'm happy with it.
But understand that you guys have always had a choice. Like everybody's always had a choice whether to use an agent or not use an agent. Exercise that choice. That's it.
Yes.
So that's my
takeaway. All right. I'm gonna woosah it out because this was a good one. You guys got to see business Charlie, not the hippie happy go lucky.
I didn't hear one mention of humanity. Or anything. Not
with some. I'm sorry, but not with something like this. I just, no. And it's funny because 4 year ago at Charlie, if he was watching the video of me talking that right now, he'd be like, you capitalist pig.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I 100% get it, guys. But at the end of the day, it's $350 in 3 months of your time. If you're willing to do it, go do it.
Damn, it's a great career.
Again, it was.
Yeah, mine was $700, but
back in 2004, I paid $17.
Right? Yeah, mine was $700.
But that my whole point.
6 months.
But my whole point. It's that easy now. It's that easy to learn. And guess what? You can do it at your own time. But anyway,
I digress.
Let's go ahead and jump into the bourbon review for today's episode.
Old elk.
Thank you, old elk.
This conversation had me stressed for a while. I'm glad I actually did my own research on the whole lawsuit, and I was like, okay, this isn't going to happen this year.
You know what, though? I do. This is a closing statement, right? I'm glad again, I keep going back to, I'm glad this lawsuit happened.
Yes.
Because I think having an open dialogue about any industry whatsoever when it comes to a consumer is never a bad thing.
No.
And our job is to educate you guys, and yes, do we have a little bit of a bias because we are in the industry? Of course we are, right? Just like you guys would in whatever industry that you're a part of. But I think open, honest, transparent communication between buyers, sellers, buyers agents and sellers agents will only make the marketplace better in the long run, and it's going to lead.
Next time I get a haircut, I'm gonna go try to. I'm gonna negotiate that shit.
Well, and it's going to lead, but it's going to lead to innovation.
Yep.
And I think, to your point, Oscar, and you saying, "Oh, $350, go get the license, do whatever you want," it's going to weed out the shitty agents. It will, and I'm okay with that because then, as a consumer, now your choices are like, instead of having to say, "Okay, I could either draft whoever the starting QB for the Bears is right now, Tyler Badgett, or I could do Aaron Rodgers, or I could do Josh Dobbs, or I could do
Ruffalo.
Brock Osweiler." Now it's like I can choose between Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and you guys win. Like, to me, that's fucking fantastic, I think.
Well, and it's
I just think it's fantastic.
for the segue of the year. You guys ready for this one?
Let's do it.
Just like this lawsuit is going to bring transparency to the real estate market, we are bringing you transparency on this Old Elk bottle. Even though this was supplied to us, we're giving you our unfiltered review and opinion.
You could also do it as just as the real estate industry got served, we are serving you Old Elk meat.
Me. Just like the market went awry.
Ooh.
Drinking.
All right.
He's available for your marketing.
Wow. Look at that.
Hiram.
See what we can do to sell your house? Goddamn. Come on.
At the end of the day, let me help you, man.
Yeah,
I'm
come
just
on.
here to help. I'm here to help. My slogan is fun, knowledgeable, and I'll get it done. I mean,
That's
come on. I
awesome.
just had a little bit of fun.
That's great.
Behind closed doors, I'm no fun. If you're negotiating on with an agent, but my clients, I'm fun.
I will say that this, it definitely opened up.
Yes, it
very,
did.
very well.
Yes, it did.
And just another testament, and it's
The
was a
burn's,
dry
you know what? The burn's still there, though.
it is
The
It
burn
is,
is still
but
there,
the
which is
flavor
kind of
released.
I like.
No, exactly. Well, again, if you're gonna have
Because it's tenacious, like us as realtors. Wow, look at that, man.
if
We
you're
could
gonna
go all
have-
day.
If you're gonna have a rye, it's going. You want it to. You
Yes.
want it to have that little bit of
Yep.
a burn because that's a staple of rye.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it is still
Can
there.
I just throw this out there? I got like syrupy pancakes.
Yeah,
It opened
well,
up to like syrupy pancakes.
The sweetness punched through with the open.
Yes.
Syrupy pancakes that were made out of sourdough.
But I think that makes sense because what happens is those sugars are contained, right?
Yeah.
Once you open it, they start interacting with the air and they open up.
Chemistry,
So it
folks.
should have
Chemistry.
some sort of evolution towards a lot more. So I'm getting the vanilla that I said I could kind of get.
Yep.
Now it's not hitting me in the face, but it's
there.
very pleasant.
It's there.
It is
Absolutely.
very pleasant.
Like this definitely opened up to more of a complex
Yes.
drink than it did at the beginning.
I would say more complex in a more sippable rye
Yeah.
than I've
Oh,
had in a
yeah,
while.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
I will drink this all day.
Yeah. Now that the interesting part is, if you would have handed me this neck pour and been like, "Hey, how is this bourbon?" I would have told you it was horrible.
You watched what I did.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
did.
ooh.
Well,
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not like that neck pour.
What the five fingers say to the face?
Did not like that neck pour at
Yep.
all. But as it's sat, as it's open, and I'm interested to try JC's pour. It opened up. I still don't think it has the complexity of Smoke Wagon.
No, but it is the closest. No,
No.
sorry, I'm
But
speaking out of turn.
it's- Well, no, it's the nose also opened up. The heat on the nose goes away after a little bit. But I mean, as a rye.
I have a
goes-
question,
Yeah.
and maybe we can ask them.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm saying this only because we just brought up Smoke Wagon. They're based in Fort Collins, okay, but are they getting their bourbon from somewhere else, or are they producing it in Fort Collins?
That's a good question. Especially with
Because-
elevation.
Smoke Wagon, the reason their shit is so good is their master tasters go out to Heaven Hill and they handpick barrels and then they remix those barrels. They don't distill their own whiskey. Well, I guess they distill it. They don't create their own whiskey. They distill.
They finish it.
They finish the barrels.
They don't start the fight; they finish.
Exactly. I'm wondering if these guys
Start.
bring in and actually
From what-
make their own bourbon.
I would, based on the master distiller being in it for 20 some years, I would say that they trust. And again, this is me speaking out of turn. I'll reach out and ask, but I would think that they're going to go and he's going to specially choose certain barrels.
Right. So very similar to the smoke wagon method. That would be what I assume.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yep. Especially because if you have 20 plus years in the industry, and I mean, we've only been doing this.
You know what you're tasting. Yes.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I said, is I can taste differences now.
Which, hey guys, can I just, what are we on, episode 45?
45. Yeah.
45. I'm just going to throw this out there. I personally, like, as we continue to, this evolves, I kind of want to make our own whiskey.
Think about it, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Would you guys
kind of
like
want
to see it?
I kind of want to go in and just, buy a barrel together and distill like a Mile High Perspective
We got some
bourbon.
some
I'm just
connections
saying.
that we
I'm
could
just
do.
throwing it out
I
there.
mean,
It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just, anyway. I was
but
thinking about that the
as
other day.
far
I'm
as
like,
the-
man, this would be cool to
Right.
like have a.
But as far as the flavor goes, after it opens, the nose dies down significantly. It's not as burned forward on the nose. I get a lot more sweetness.
I don't know,
from
man.
it.
You go all the
still
way
burns
in.
me in the
Yeah, go
nose.
all the way in.
I'm going all the way in.
Charlie's drunk.
No. It's there, but it's not like it was at first.
No, yeah, it
that's
died down
all
a
I'm
little
saying.
bit.
Yeah,
It died down a little
it died, but to your point, it died on the nose, but not enough for me to go, oh,
It's not
this
a
is-
rye anymore.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's what I mean.
Yes.
It still holds the profile that you would think of a rye, but based on the neck pour plus the first open, the beginning of the episode, totally different on the nose
Yep.
for me. Sweetness punches through. I definitely get more of that pie. The roundness of the pie where you get the sweetness, but then you also get the bread and
Yep.
the whatever it is, the crust of it. The flavor again, it's sitting a lot heavier on the sweetness for me after the open. Yeah, spice is still heavy though. That did not die off at all. But it went off the. I would say it's now focused on the center of my tongue and the roof of my mouth. Not
Yeah.
even. I don't have anything on the side of my tongue. It's all right down the center of my tongue on the flavor.
Are we
What about you?
all talking? Or what's going on here?
Yeah, mine's roof
See,
of the mouth.
with me, the nose toned down, but it's still stingy. But to the point where when we first did it, I couldn't smell anything because it was just in my face.
Yep.
Now it's still strong, but I could see the apricots or whatever. For me, it toned the burn down all the way. It's not burny at all. It's still spicy, so you
Yes.
can still get that, but it's no burn.
Yep.
It is very palatable at this
Yep.
point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to go ahead and give it my rock rating. You guys ready for the rock
Yeah,
rating?
dude.
Well,
burn
hey,
it off.
real quick though, for the
The
people,
bird's like at the tip of the tongue. Now.
how
It's weird.
does the rock rating work?
So the rock rating is on a scale of 1 to 10, and that is because the more rocks, more ice cubes you put in a bourbon, usually the worse it is because you need to water it down. It's a little hard for us to measure on that sometimes because we do enjoy neat, and every single bourbon that we drink, all 45 episodes are neat. And we tried it once with a drop of water, but every single one has been neat.
Yep.
So it's definitely an interesting gauge, but 1 to 10.
I guess it's one of those where like I look at it from if I'm going to give this to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
we drink it neat, but if I'm going to give it to a first time
Yes.
bourbon drinker, am I going to give it to him with 1 rock or 10 rocks?
Yep. Well, and it's funny because, we talk about it often, right?
Slushy.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about it often, like
Sonic Ice.
versus, like me drinking it or us drinking it, people who drink bourbon versus giving it to somebody new and how they would react to it. Like I said, it was an eye opener for me. I thought something was smooth, gave it to somebody who doesn't drink bourbon. He goes, oh, I can start my car. Like that was an eye opener for me. And it's with bottles like this, especially Old Elk, where they have a special proofing process where they have years of experience and they know what they're doing to build this. I genuinely appreciate the ability that I have acquired from drinking bourbon to be able to taste the nuances and flavors and go through and taste the differences, because on a bottle like this, if I was not able to do it, if I took a first sip
The
of this
neck pour
bottle,
would have killed it for you.
yeah, if I took a first sip of this bottle, that bottle would sit
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yep.
And there's just so many factors that go into the ratings on it, right? For me, I'm a sweeter palate. I don't want to say I don't like ryes, but Ryes are a bit more sour for me. They scrunch my mouth up a little bit more. So I tend to be a little bit heavier on them. If I'm going to rate this one against, other ryes that we've had versus just an overall, I would have given it a higher rating. But I always do my rating from hey, we're giving you information, go try this bourbon. Drinkability, exactly. I'm sitting more with this. I think I'm going to give it a 4.2 on my rack rating for it. Specifically because, again, just if somebody who's layman's went and picked this up, didn't let it open, just poured it out, I think that they would be put back by the heat, by the rye.
Sure.
Of it.
Yep. Agreed.
I do enjoy the flavor. I think the flavor is great. I do think, and it could just be this bottle, I do think that the heat overpowers a lot of the flavor that they could have pulled from this. And that could have done a little bit better. So maybe this would be good with a rock, like a big ice cube, one big solid rock or a ball, or even a couple drops of water. But neat right out of the gate, yeah, I'm going 4.2.
I want to say that if you're going to drink it straight out of the bottle, don't let it open up. Definitely do at least 1 or 2 cubes.
Yep.
House cubes. If you have solid rocks, just let it chill for a little bit and let it water down. It'll open up. I think it opened up beautifully for me. It really did. The spice, the pepperiness is still there towards the end, but all the flavor profiles have opened up. I could taste the caramel. I can now taste what they described, and it really did open up beautifully for me. If you would have had me rate it when you first poured the neck pour, I would have been like, you know what? It's not garbage, but it sucks.
Yeah.
But it opened up beautifully. I'm gonna give it a rock rating of, hell, I'm gonna go 4.
4.
Maybe because it's a rye, I might even go 3.5.
Yeah. I wish this is where we need to figure out where we rated that smoke wagon, the small batch rye. And I think it's funny. I
don't think a smoke wagon got past 3.5 for us.
I don't think
any of the smoke wagons.
I don't think it. And I still like smoke wagon better.
Yep.
Which is why I asked about how they distill it. I just always think it's funny because our palates, it's literally like we are the Goldilocks of bourbon drinkers because you are more rye and you like the burn. You're sweet and just so sweet.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of you guys, and our ratings. I bet you historically, if you look back, it probably reflects that because I am right in between, like a 3.5 and a 4.5. So I kind of want to go like a 4, but I don't think it's that far off from the smoke wagon because it's a rye. But for me, as it opened up, I would describe it as I agree with the neck pour itself, overpowering, 100%. Like that burn, if you don't let this sit,
it was unleaded.
It almost distracts you from how good this bourbon is. But now that it's opened up, I see it as just kind of a delicate rye. Like something that, yes, it's got the punch, but it also has the nuances of the cinnamon, the vanilla opened up for me. I knew it was going to open up because just based on the legs, like the sugar's there. So the sweetness and the caramel is there. And I'm drinking this neat. If I put it on a rock, I think it would open way up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to go with probably 3.75.
3.75.
Yeah,
See,
3.75.
If I rate it as a rye, not as an overall drinker, I'm right there with both of you.
Yeah, I think 3.75
for sure.
But I'm thinking back on the ryes that we've had.
And again, the burn is not even it's
right.
a peppery.
Yes, that is what's changed my mind because
it's not
I
an
look
alcohol
at
burn. It's a peppery.
Yes, I look at some of the ryes we've had, and there's been some ryes that I'm like, man, it's not hard to drink because I enjoy bourbon, but if I put myself in somebody else's shoes, it's overpowering. This opened up to where now the burn almost complements the rest of it.
Yeah,
because it goes from one extreme to another, and I enjoy that, and that's why I say it's delicate because I go from this immediate burn to where it's center of the tongue, but then the aftertaste is a little bit sweet. I get that vanilla, and as I've drank it over the course of an hour and a half, it's gotten better. And to me, that's the mark of a good bourbon.
Yeah,
is if I can drink it over time and it gets better.
Yeah,
I'm good. So 3.75.
And to your point, something that is complex and delicate. I like the burn, right?
Yeah.
Booker's is a good example.
Yes.
That thing's going to be
right.
punch in your face that I like the whole time.
Yep.
It doesn't evolve. It is what it is. You could let it open up. You got to tone it down with water if you don't like it.
Wide open?
But
No,
Booker's a
it's
good
still
example
burnt.
of that.
It's
That's what I'm saying though. Like it
just knows it.
It turns into something else.
We're,
No,
if
but
you're
it
listening
keeps
on audio,
the-
we just picked up JC's glass, which has been open this whole time.
it keeps the characteristics of a rye,
Yeah.
which is great. But yeah, I don't know. 375. I like it. I think
like
it's
it.
great.
Hold out. Thank you guys so much for sending this to us. It's awesome. I'm excited to try the other two because we do have like a bold rye.
Yeah.
Like they have a bold rye.
Yeah, I'm excited for
So
the.
hold on, straight wasn't good enough.
Yeah,
We're
no.
gonna give you a bowl.
Yeah, they
I'm
got-
excited for the blind taste test between
Yeah.
those four because that'd be good. Before we sign off,
Yep.
I do want to say this. This week marks, and you see his glass there every single week. It's JC Ortega. See the Metro 5280 behind us. This week marks his birthday, so we don't have an episode. This is the episode before his birthday. We don't, and the next one we have is after. So his birthday is November 13th, and he was one of the ones obviously that pioneered this for us. So I wanted to just say, happy birthday. Would have
Happy
been
birthday,
38 this year. And,
Happy birthday, JC.
He's the reason that I met
Yep.
these two.
It's the reason that this is happening.
Yeah. So just want to say happy birthday. Love you, man.
He sold me my house.
Yep.
He was a listing agent.
Happy birthday and
Salud, man.
cheers, JC. And on that note, guys, thank you for sticking around with us for an hour and a half. I know this went long, but we're very happy to have you guys. Thank you guys for sitting with us, enjoying bourbon with us, giving us your feedback, all of that. Remember, you can catch us on YouTube at Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective. We drop our audio on all platforms. That's Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora even. And you can catch us there every Friday. We drop the audio. And then Monday to Wednesday, we'll drop our video on YouTube. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Send us an email at res or resotr at themilehighperspective.com or give us a ring or a text, whatever's easiest for you.
303-578-0263.
Guys, it's been a pleasure. It was
Yep.
an awesome episode. If you guys want to have this conversation with us in person, reach out. We're more than happy.
No, absolutely.
On that note, cheers. We'll catch you guys next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.